got one that can see.
Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Donne. Going to be a quick video today. A couple of days ago, I was speaking with a friend of mine. I've mentioned it before. It just doesn't have any luck with women. And he doesn't understand why it is that women seem to go for the worst, most degenerate guys. You know, guys that hit them, guys that don't have jobs or don't have good jobs, constantly in and out of trouble, the whole 9 yards. And we could go into the whole bad boy phenomenon. We could go into why women seem to gravitate towards those people. But I used to think the same way that he did. He's kind of in a bewilderment with it. But I can see that as time goes on, the bewilderment is turning to indifference. And I talk to women, on a fairly regular basis here and there. To an extent, will go on a date, although that's getting less and less as time goes on. But a common theme that I've found with the majority of women I know, a lot of women I've dated in the past and so on and so forth, is they all have that one abusive ex-boyfriend. That one abusive ex-boyfriend. And it never ceases to amaze me that tends to be the guy that they stayed with the longest. I don't know if it's Stockholm syndrome or what, but the interesting thing is that it's caused me to just, as time has gone on, the more I understand about the game, if you will, the less empathy I have for them, empathy or sympathy. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like this guy is finally kind of getting there. It goes from a trying to understand it and rationalize it and try to figure out, well, why do they go for these guys, to a point where you just accept it, and yet you don't. It's almost said a lot of times as, I guess, to gain some sort of attention or sympathy. And yet when I hear it, I'm not surprised. Like I said, a lot of them that I meet, talk to, they all have that one abusive ex-boyfriend. And yet my whole thing is they made the choice to be in the relationship and stay in the relationship. But that brings me to a different point here. If you criticize women for that, or you say that women ought to, take some responsibility in who it is they enter into relationships with, well, then you're more or less labeled as blaming the victim. And that's another thing that I've noticed in terms of, as far as criticizing women goes, or criticizing anything about, usually when somebody's criticizing women, it deals with relationships, or it deals with, different double standards. But, it's kind of like the whole groupthink deal, where we're kind of fed this thing, and you've heard it, the women are wonderful line. The women are wonderful men. Nothing that women do is ever wrong. Women can never be on the opposing side of anything. Everything they do is always right and justified. And that's sort of the thing that our culture touts nowadays. And so to criticize it, you go against the groupthink. To suggest that women can be at fault, or that women can improve on things, you go against the hive mind. In the same way, I've noticed that, as a MGTOW, you are an outlier. As a MGTOW, you are a truth sayer, whether you say anything or say nothing. Because by your very existence, you're going against the life script that many people have been handed and abide in. And so that also goes against the group thing. To say that marriage is a raw deal, to say that marriage is a raw deal, particularly for men, is also not tolerated. So you go against the groupthink to suggest that there might be better things to do than waste your time jumping through hoops trying to get dates with women, or worrying about maintaining these relationships, or getting married, or heaven forbid you suggest that there's anything that might be as important or perhaps more important than getting laid. That goes against the groupthink. That goes against the cultural script. And in much the same way that in the early Ice Age there had to be altruism, there had to be teamwork, you had to work with one another, and anybody causing a disruption in that cohesion would be cast out of the tribe or the family and left to fend for themselves, which, oftentimes in that scenario and setting was a death sentence. In much the same way, MGTOW are cast out, which isn't a huge deal because we're already going our own way, but it's the same kind of scenario with that, where we're going against the script in hand. The other thing is to suggest that, I mentioned earlier, that there are things above sex. The human experience, the human journey, if you will, I feel like goes above and beyond just the act of sex. I mean, there are so many things to experience in life. The human condition is so much bigger than that, and yet society puts that at the forefront. And society more or less tries to portray the image that if you're not out there just constantly having sex, that somehow you're not living up to, I guess, the national pastime. It's a smoke and mirrors scenario for us. A shell game, a con game. Take, for instance, the diamond trade. Inflated value. They're not as inherently valuable as they were claimed to be. This is all a marketing campaign. In much the same way, women in the West are. A depreciating value. Smoke and mirrors with makeup. Running a con on you for your resources, your money, your access to promotions and these things. It's just not worth the hoops to jump through anymore. And I think that a lot of people are reaching that point, that we're done playing the shell game. We're done getting the con run on us. And we're kind of done with the script that in order to be happy in life, you have to be married. You have to have 2.5 kids. In order to be a successful, valuable, worthwhile human being, you must be in a relationship with somebody else. I mean, in the West, what do the majority of women offer a guy? Most of them can't cook and really do much of anything else other than spend your hard-earned money and expect you to go above and beyond in every aspect of life, while at the same time never putting those same conditions on themselves. So it's a snake oil salesman. They're trying to sell you something that you don't need and that you never needed. Well, again, this was just a short video. It's some thoughts that I've had here and there and wanted to get out. Other than that, it's your life, and you have to ask yourself the question, how has my life improved and benefited or detracted from, based off of whether I have this or whether I have that. That's all I've got today, guys. As always, you're free to do as you're told.